with that, I'm going to leap right into Module 1, and we're going to start talking about fundamental documents. So I'm going to give a little bit of an overview, just to give you a sense of what's ahead. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview here. I'm going to touch on some broader themes and issues when we're talking about fundamental documents for or essential documents, where the sort of the first layer of documents, texts, and sort of bringing things out of our vision and putting it into words. And we're going to have a little case study where we're going to look at mission statements, and then we're going to have a little exercise where I'm going to ask you to break out into groups and hopefully do something that's going to be a little bit fun and get your brain kind of started thinking about this this difficult process of writing something that's really short and really fundamental. So let's get into it. So mission statements, we've talked about how sometimes these documents are overlapping or interwoven, or they have common threads. Mission statements, and we might also hear those referred to or grouped together with vision statements or value statements, have a really big impact on other essential and foundational documents that tend to get created, or sometimes we wish they had been created at the very, very beginnings of an archive's life cycle. Those include things like collecting policies, deposit and donation agreements, or for archives that are incorporating as nonprofits or are part of a larger business. Like, for instance, here in Los Angeles, we have archives that are part of motion picture studios and are part of their business model, keeping the history and the records of the institution with an eye to them as business records and business assets. So when we think about these kinds of foundational documents, we are talking about a lot of different things, and they inform one another backwards and forwards. So the mission, vision, and value statements are kind of the philosophy, the what we do, why we do it, and how we intend to get it done, and the impact that we intend to have. Articles of incorporation are the fundamental, or in the case of, as one of our participants here has, when you're part of a unit of a larger program, project, or institution, you may have a charter or a manifesto if you're just an individual or private collection. You may have a sort of personal vision of collecting, or you may have a sort of official document that is how you get started and that frames your work and your role within the institution. Articles of incorporation talk about who you are as a juridical person in society. As some of us may remember, corporations in the United States have the status of people. So corporations can speak, they can own property, and they can assert a place in society and a role in society. Deposits and donation agreements are some things that that often archives don't have from the very beginning and find really necessary at the end. They're a classic example of the kind of document that you may generate much after the fact and put into use retrospectively. That was certainly the case at several of the archives that I've worked with, where in the early years of the institution, where there were just a couple of paid staff members, everybody did everything, and they didn't know, quote unquote, the right way to do things. So materials were taken in and acknowledged with just a handshake and a thank you. Community connections were leveraged, and personal relationships were much more a part of the deposit or donation process. And we only moved later to formal deposit and donation agreements that covered things like the donation of copyright or other intellectual property rights, along with the physical custody of the objects or materials. And collecting policies. Many institutions, when they start up, are just interested in everything they can get. They're more interested in in gathering than they are in refining, or they're more focused on saying yes or saying please than they are on saying no. So one of our participants talked about the place where that might lead us, where we find ourselves with a lot of things that now that we have a mission statement, and now that we have a collecting policy, we have things that were donated or deposited that we don't want anymore, and we are using the policies not just as a way to say what we do want, but also as a way to say what we don't want, and what we're going to do with things if we are going to be parting with them. What are our obligations, and what are donors and depositors' expectations? And this is where I'm going to first provide a link to, and I'm going to actually take us on a little guided tour of the Archives as LA as Subject Archives Help Desk. And I'm going to just visit that here on the internet. I have it bookmarked, and you should too. And it's lassubject.org. It's one of the main menu items. So I'm going to share screen here so you all can see how we navigate there. So here we are on the LAS Subject website. And if you just scroll on down to Archives Help, in addition to the Archives at Risk Help Desk, there's information about the Archives at Risk Committee and other resources, including the self-assessment program, which may be of real interest to some or all of you. If not now, then maybe later. And apologies for the weird Zoom screen issue. Clears up, it comes and goes. I wish it didn't happen at all, but so here we are at the Archives at Risk Help Desk. As you can see, the resources are divided into topic areas, some of which have a little bit of overlap, but for the most part, they're all in one long thing. So if you're looking for keywords and you don't see a clear match here, you can find the resources you're looking for by doing a Control F, but it's full, just absolutely packed with useful information, including things like administrative management and the Starting an Archives book, which is available freely through the Hathi Trust. Elizabeth Yackel is somebody that I've met, and she's terrific. She's just a really thoughtful person, and this is an excellent resource if you are in that position where you are just getting started, or you're just starting from scratch, or you are maybe inheriting a collection that didn't have any of these things in place, and you need to impose order on that chaos. And if you have a board that you are working with, or if your organization has a board and is getting into that place where you want to be more strategic, the board operations must-have documents list is particularly helpful, and that's from an organization called Board Source. So this is your introduction. The Archives at Risk Help Desk, learn it, live it, love it is what I would say. This is just full of incredibly useful information on any and all of these topics, including collection management. So for those of you who are interested in things like collection policies, you can find very useful information there. We also have preservation, digital donations. There are sections on copyright and legal issues and oral histories. So there's a little something for everybody who's with us live today, and for anybody who might be watching a recorded version. And again, some overlap and some distinction here between legal and copyright and privacy. We'll be building this section out. If any of you have suggestions for additions to this list or other resources, you are welcome to contact the committee. We are listening to the community, and this is a resource for, by, and with the community. So please feel free to send us suggestions for additional materials to include on this list. Again, it's a high-level overview of relevant resources, and it is focused for LA's Subject, our members and our partner institutions, but we are looking more broadly at the larger archives community as well. So hopefully that resource is very useful to you. I know it is to me. I've made use of it quite a lot in the short time since I've become aware of it. So with that in mind, let's go on to, where are we? Hello, PowerPoint, come back. So let's look at a concrete example of this. The mission statement for the Japanese American National Museum, where I worked when I was working on my MLIS degree from UCLA. So congrats to my fellow Bruins who have the MLIS, and this is an institution that may be familiar to some of you if you've been a part of the LAS subject community for a long time. But let's look at their mission statement. So this is the mission statement for JANM, and they actually have it. I'm gonna show it in context here if I can make this work. I'm gonna share two screens at once. Getting fancy here in the Zoom. Let's see. We're gonna share slideshow, and here we go. All right. If this is not working, then we can just look at the screen in context. So JANM's mission statement appears on their website, and obviously the website is an essential document for many of us, and it's a complex document. So the sort of map of where information appears on a website is really interesting to look at. And one of the things that you may want to do, especially if you're in the early stages or the formative stages of your archive, is just look broadly and widely at how organizations start. You can have a very, very simple website that gets big and cumbersome, and you know, this is I would say this website is typical of a mature institution. The Japanese American National Museum has been around since the 1990s. So they're what I would call a mature institution, but they are also still a growing and changing institution. And they put their mission statement front and center here on an about page. They provide some history of the organization and allow you to go deeper. They talk about facilities rental, major projects, exhibitions, and their leadership and governance. So, but right at the top of that is this mission statement that says who they are and what they do. So the mission of the Japanese American National Museum is to promote understanding and appreciation of America's ethnic and cultural diversity by sharing the Japanese American experience. So having looked at that, let's look at the other kinds of institutions that are similar to JANM, and may therefore, we would think, have similar mission statements, right? So here we go. I have a little comparison and contrast. Next slide here. So Densho is similar in focus and scope. It addresses the Japanese American history. It's confined during to the World War II era, and it's focused on oral histories and testimonies. So, the mission statement isn't as explicit as the Japanese American National Museums. It doesn't say the mission of Densho is, but it talks about their vision, or a slogan here: preserving stories of the past for the generations of tomorrow. And it talks about their operational imperative. Densho documents the testimonies of Japanese Americans who were unjustly incarcerated during World War II before their memories are extinguished. We offer these irreplaceable firsthand accounts coupled with historical images and teacher resources to explore principles of democracy and promote equal justice for all. So let's discuss this. Let's take a look at these two fairly similar organizations and talk about how their mission statements and those fundamental ideas that they are foregrounding about their activities and their intentions are reflected in these very, very pithy statements, whether we call them mission statements or vision statements. And I'm going to open this up to the room. What do we see here? What differences do you see in these two statements? And anyone is welcome to pop their comments into the chat or to unmute and just say what you see.
So the Densho statement, the first thing I noticed is it's a little more like stirring and emotional and more explicitly political. The other one seems like it's maybe trying to go for like neutrality. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's there are strong words in the Densho statement: unjustly incarcerated, irreplaceable firsthand accounts, principles of democracy, and promoting equal justice. This is really definitely making more of a political stance. It's also really specifically bounding the focus of the archive's work in oral histories and testimonies of people who experienced the World War II incarceration directly. Whereas the Japanese American National Museum's mission is, I think, much broader. We can see from this, they're talking about the Japanese American experience and all of that conveys, as opposed to the limited slice of the Japanese experience, a Japanese American experience that is constituted within the World War II incarceration experience. So we can see that the mission of JANM is broader. Their statement about their mission is more aspirational and less prescriptive. It's not talking so much about how they're doing things as their promotion of understanding and appreciation of ethnic and cultural diversity. So they're connecting the Japanese American experience to the broader American experience and American cultural and ethnic diversity. What else? It's a great observation. Thank you, Erin.
Just to sort of expand on the general statement on JANM, I think it's to a nod of their different facets, since they're it's a community space, an exhibition space, a collection space. They're not just one. It's, it's easier to do a general statement because they're all encompassing that way, versus the Densho, they are a preservation site,
Yes, exactly. When I see a broader mission statement like this, it makes me expect to be able to dig deeper and see a wide range of activities and levels of involvement within the community on the part of that organization. It also speaks to a certain degree of ambition, right? There's big sites that we're setting, or big goals that we're setting our sights on here at the Japanese American National Museum. It is giving us a lot of room to move. There are a lot of things that you can do and accomplish under that mission. So it's really encompassing, as opposed to Densho's, which is really drawing some boundaries around what they do. And they're about documenting testimonies of Japanese Americans who were unjustly incarcerated during World War II before their memories are extinguished. So we are seeing differences in time and scale and scope, and also audience and the themes that are being explored by these organizations. So really these word choices and the sort of space that a mission statement creates, I think, is immediately apparent just from comparing these two. We might also look at similar but different community-based organizations one of our participants has pointed out here in the chat that the Shoah Project is an organization that we might connect to both of these institutions, a different cultural community, the Jewish community, and Holocaust survivors. But there is some considerable overlap in the activities that these organizations might undertake. So if you are in a position where you are writing a mission statement for the first time, which is something that I've found myself in the position of when I was working with the Center for Home Movies as a co-founder and board member. We spent a lot of time just thinking about, like which words to use, and what we were really trying to do. And it's a process of reflection that gets turned into something concrete in the form of the mission statement, gets reified. The mission statement's the thing, or the slogan, or the flag that we plant on our activities. And so looking at other organizations and their mission statements is part of how we define the positive and negative scope that we are trying to delineate with a mission statement. So when we are writing mission statements, generally we're talking about something that is short and pithy, that is as clear as possible, that speaks to internal and external stakeholders alike. So mission statements are something that people inside an institution can use to inform and shape their work. It's a resource that you can look to when you are having trouble making a decision, when you need guidance. It's always great to go back to the mission statement and say, all right, well, we're writing our collection policies here, and we are trying to think about, we have some examples from similar institutions, and they say that they're going to collect these things. Do we really want to do that? Again, the mission is where you look and you say, like, where are we situating ourselves? Do we allow for this? If so, how? If so, how does this serve our overall mission? And if it doesn't, why are we doing it? And if we're committed to doing it, if we do feel it serves the mission, but it doesn't somehow fit, what might need to change or be adjusted in order for us to get to where we want to be? So we talked about the type of language that's used, powerful words, broad words, encompassing or inclusive words, narrowing or specific words. The language we use for a mission statement can be as helpful in defining what we don't do as what we do. So it can rule things out or rule things in. It can create boundaries of time and audience and stakeholders. It can invite people in, or it can say, we do a lot of things, but there are some things that we don't do. And if you want somebody that does those things, you can look elsewhere. So we talk about scope and limitations, and we talk about functions. Many mission statements or vision statements include we do this by doing this. We communicate about the Japanese American experience through testimonies, exhibitions, and public programming. We connect communities to resources, to their histories through publications and online exhibitions. And we have a great point here, which is that the broader the mission statement, the more likely it is that people will try to put things under the big tent that end up drawing resources away from your core values and goals. So definitely the breadth and the scope of your mission statement is something to keep in mind when you are talking big, dreaming big. The mission statement should help you stay manageable. And if you found that you've written for yourself a mission statement that lets you be everything to everyone, think about what that might put you on the hook for. And think about how the other documents you might be creating, including collection policies, visitor policies, an exhibition calendar, or publications and other projects, how those might help to further confine your activities to the things that serve that mission in the truest and most potent way. So I'm going to ask us to go break out into breakout rooms. I think we have enough folks for everybody to be 2 or 3 to a breakout room. And I want you all to try your hand at drafting the mission statement for a kitchen. So so think about this. If you were to write a mission statement for a kitchen, whether it's your own home, or if you are a foodie influencer and the kitchen is where you are doing your work, and the kitchen is supposed to promote your brand or embody your values or your unique identity as an influencer. If your kitchen is part of a smaller restaurant, if you're the manager of a kitchen and you want to create a mission statement that's going to guide your food purchases, the investment that the restaurant group is making in new equipment or supplies, like you could use a mission statement to do that. You know, for our restaurant, the kitchen is this. Or for an institution that has a staff break room that includes a kitchen, what is that kitchen intended for, and what might its mission be, and how might a mission statement help guide behaviors, activities, acquisitions, or what stuff stays in the fridge or gets cleaned out at the end of every working week. I'd like us to take 10 minutes to do a breakout room session. If you can't participate, that's fine. You'll be randomly assigned to a breakout room, and whoever is in there can give some thought to it. So if you are in room 1, you'll be home cook, room 2, foodie influencer, room 3, small restaurant, room 4, break room. And I'm going to stop sharing. I'll put this text in the chat so that you'll all have access to it. And I will assign you all to breakout rooms right now. Great. And I'm opening all rooms. I'll pop in and visit everybody as we go around. I'm also going to take a little biology break too. So if this is a good moment for you, I'm going to reconvene us at, it's 11:19 by my computer. I'm going to reconvene us at about 11:30. I'll just give you all a 1-minute warning then. So see you in a few minutes.